I lived in LA for a while, and I was living in Echo Park, and which is, east, kind of like Los Feliz downgrade. But I like it more. And I noticed that there are all these weird sort of like ramshackle shacks like buried in the hillside where people were sort of living off the grid in the middle of the city, and I was fascinated by that. I walked all the time, and we explored. My husband and I explored, these weird like hillside walk streets, this hidden secret staircase streets. And then the deeper you went into that, you would find like a weird house with like a guy with a pig, or like, boarded up or condemned, but people were living lives there. And it was sort of like, it was odd to me. There were no street access, kind of even looked like Appalachian farmhouses, like in the backwoods, seriously. And I was like, that's so interesting that that's in the middle of the city. And I tried to write about it, but it was difficult because I couldn't find a story. So we moved to the Arts District. We bought a loft in the Arts District, which is adjacent to Skid Row. Like the Arts District and downtown are divided by Skid Row. And I started volunteering at teaching creative writing at an outreach center there. It's a multi-platform outreach center that does everything from emergency shelter to counseling to, anyway, they have lots of programs. I wanted to write about something to do with this project, and I had a couple stories in mind, and I rented a house in the desert to get out. I'd been out to the desert once and I loved it, and I wanted to get out of town, and I've been there twice actually. And so I rented a house in the desert, and I just fell in love with 29 Palms, which is the town after Joshua Tree, city actually. And the desert just sort of started leaking into my book, which was weird. I'd never had that experience before. So what I realized is, like, for the most part, well, generally, I would say entirely, no one's story starts in Skid Row. Some people might be born there, but they probably don't live on the streets in the same way. So everyone's story has to start somewhere. And I wanted to write about how people's lives wound up in Skid Row. And the desert is the kind of place where you might very well not be tethered to a traditional lifestyle, live off the grid. You might have alternate ways of approaching the world. And so it just made some kind of organic sense that of course, not everyone born in the desert winds up in Skid Row, but some people could. So it's a sort of idea of like traveling east to west, like from the desert to Skid Row. So it was very difficult to marry those two places in a book, but I did it.